My family has owned 40 acres of dense pine forest and a quiet 5-acre lake in North Georgia for over 100 years. It's not a resort. It's not a public park. It's private land. At the entrance, a mile down a bumpy dirt road, is a heavy, 10-foot-tall iron gate. On that gate is a 4-foot-wide, professionally painted sign that reads, "Private property, no trespassing." A second sign, right below it, adds, "Gate is locked at all times. Survivors will be prosecuted." The second sign is a joke my grandfather put up, but the first one is deadly serious. My name is Frank. I'm a retired carpenter, and that lake cabin is my sanctuary. It's where I go to escape the noise, the people, and the endless demands of modern life. It's where I go to fish, think, and be left alone. Which is why, when I arrived last Friday for my annual 3-day solo fishing trip, the sight of a pristine white designer SUV parked defiantly in my private clearing next to my cabin was so jarring. It was parked in the one spot I use for my old pickup truck, right next to the fire pit. A young couple was setting up lawn chairs by the water's edge, laughing and taking selfies as if they had just discovered their own personal paradise. They had. It just happened to be mine. I parked my truck behind their SUV, blocking them in, and walked over, my face calm but my mind already turning. The woman saw me approaching. She stood up, took off her large sunglasses, and put her hands on her hips. Her expression wasn't apologetic or confused. It was confrontational. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice dripping with the kind of condescending tone that assumes you're the one who is out of place. "I was about to ask you the same thing," I replied, my voice even. "This is private property," she scoffed. "We found it on an app. It's a public access point for hiking and recreation. You can't just claim a lake for yourself." "Ma'am," I said, pointing back in the direction of the road. "Did you see the 10-foot iron gate and the 4-foot-wide private property sign you had to have bypassed to get here?" Her husband had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Honey," he started. "He might have a point. That gate was open. It was open, so we came in," she snapped, cutting him off. "That's how it works. Finders keepers. We're not leaving. We're having a picnic." I looked at them. I looked at their fancy SUV parked in my spot. I looked at the padlock and chain I always use to lock the main gate, sitting on the passenger seat of my truck. An idea, a slow, patient, and deeply satisfying idea began to form in my mind. I had planned a 3-day fishing trip, and I was not going to let them ruin it. "All right," I said with a slow nod. "You're right. My mistake. The gate was open. Enjoy your picnic." I turned around, walked back to my truck, and began to unload my gear. I didn't make eye contact. I just took my fishing rods, my tackle box, and my cooler and carried them down to my dock on the opposite side of the clearing from them. Brenda watched me with a triumphant smirk. She had won. She had faced down the local yokel and claimed her prize. She and her husband went back to their picnic, laughing loudly, playing music from a portable speaker. I spent the next hour fishing from my dock, ignoring them completely. The sun began to dip below the pine trees. I saw the couple start to pack up their things, folding their chairs and packing their cooler. They got into their shiny white SUV, started the engine, and tried to back out. They couldn't. My old, heavy pickup truck was blocking them in completely. The woman Brenda got out of the car, her face a mask of fury. She marched over to my dock. "Are you going to move your truck?" she demanded. I reeled in my line slowly. "Nope," I said, not looking at her. "What do you mean, nope? We're leaving," she shrieked. "I'm on a 3-day fishing trip," I said calmly, baiting my hook. "I'm not planning on going anywhere until Monday morning. You're welcome to stay. It's a beautiful spot. Just be careful of the bears at night." The reality of her situation finally dawned on her. The rage on her face was replaced by a flicker of panic. There was no cell service out here. They were a mile down a private dirt road, blocked in by a truck whose owner had just announced he wasn't leaving for 3 days. "You can't do this!" she screamed. "This is kidnapping!" "Ma'am," I said, finally turning to look at her. "You are trespassing. I am enjoying my property. The only one keeping you here is you. But since you seem so determined to stay, I should probably go lock the main gate. For safety, you understand?" I reeled in my line, put my rod down, and walked back to my truck. I didn't get in. I just leaned against the tailgate, crossed my arms, and watched them. For the next hour, they tried everything. They yelled. They threatened to sue. The husband tried to reason with me, offering me money to move my truck. I just shook my head and told him I was looking forward to some peace and quiet. As darkness fell completely, a new sound cut through the chirping of the crickets, the distant sound of an engine. It was my backup plan. I had a small, solar-powered signal booster hidden on my property. It wasn't strong enough for a phone call, but it was just enough to send a single, pre-written text message. I had sent one to my friend, the local sheriff, an hour ago. "Got some trespassers at the cabin. No rush, but might need you to swing by when you can." A sheriff's vehicle bumped its way down the dirt road, but it stopped about 100 yards away, its headlights cutting through the darkness. It stopped at the main gate. The gate I had driven out and locked an hour earlier, just as I'd told them I would. I saw the beam of a flashlight as Sheriff Thompson got out of his car to inspect the heavy iron gate, now secured with a thick, case-hardened chain and a very large padlock. Brenda and her husband saw the headlights. They started shouting, screaming for help, thinking their rescue had arrived. They couldn't understand why the sheriff wasn't just driving in. I sat on my tailgate, sipping from a thermos of coffee I had poured earlier. After about 10 minutes of them yelling into the dark, I decided to be a good host. I got into my truck, started it, and slowly, carefully, drove it out of their way, parking it beside my cabin. Their path was now clear. They scrambled into their SUV, relief washing over their faces. Brenda shot me a look of pure hatred as she threw the car into reverse. They sped out of the clearing and down the dirt road, kicking up dust, heading for the main gate and their savior, the sheriff. I just smiled, took another sip of coffee, and went back to my dock. I knew what was coming next. I couldn't hear the conversation at the gate, but I could imagine it. I imagined them explaining to Sheriff Thompson that they were trapped, and I imagined his response. About 20 minutes later, the white SUV came, rumbling back down the dirt road much slower this time. It parked back in the clearing, and the engine cut out. The doors opened, and the couple got out. They did not look happy. I waited. I knew they would have to approach me. They had no food, no water beyond what was in their car, and no way out. The husband came over first, his shoulders slumped. The sheriff, he said he can't cut the lock on a private gate without a court order, he said, his voice barely a whisper. He said since we're not in immediate danger, it's a civil matter. He said our best bet was to ask you to let us out. And what did you tell him when he asked how you got in? I asked. The husband winced. We told him the gate was open. He said, well, then it sounds like Frank was just securing his property for the night after you came in. He didn't lock you in. You chose to stay. He also gave us a ticket for trespassing. Brenda was still standing by the car, fuming silently. Her arrogance had been replaced by a sullen, childish anger. She had been outsmarted, and she couldn't stand it. I looked at the husband. He looked genuinely miserable. Look, I said, I came here to fish for 3 days. It's Friday night. I'll be leaving Monday morning around 8 a.m. I'd be happy to unlock the gate for you then. Until that time, you're welcome to my fire pit, but stay on that side of the clearing. For the next 2 days, I had the most peaceful fishing trip of my life. I fished, I read a book, I cooked my meals over my campfire, and I completely ignored the couple camped out in their luxury SUV 50 yards away. They spent their time arguing, sulking, and looking utterly miserable. It was the best background noise I could have asked for. On Monday morning at 8 a.m. sharp, I packed up my truck. I drove to the main gate. They followed me in their SUV. I took my time, slowly, methodically. Unlocking the chain, I swung the heavy gate open. I got back in my truck and drove off, not even giving them a backward glance. They were free to go. But I knew they weren't really free. They were trapped in the memory of a weekend where their arrogance and entitlement had cost them their dignity. They had come looking for a free, beautiful spot to have a picnic, and they had found one. It just came with a 3-day waiting period and a very valuable lesson.